Good morning, students. I hope you all fit and fine at home. Student, today we will complete our remaining chapter 19, Story of Early Men. But before starting the chapter, as usual, thought of the day is the beautiful thing about learning is that no one can take it away from you. What is the thought of the day? The beautiful thing about learning is that no one can take it away from you. So, with beautiful thought, open your book, page number 119. Now, student, in previous video, we have to learn about life of human beings, life of early men. So, student, life of human beings who lived on earth long ago was very different from the life we have today. They were called early humans. They lived in caves or in jungles. They hunted animals for food and gathered wild berries, fruits from the jungle. For this activity, for hunting the animals, they used wood tools, bones tools, and stone tools, etc. So, student, let me continue our chapter. Open your book, chapter number 19, the story of early men. Student, in previous video, we also learned the discovery of fire. So, the discovery of fire changed early humans' life and it is very useful for them. How? Because it provided them light and heat. It made their life safer and more comfortable. Wild animals were frightened of fire and avoided campsites, and cooking made the food soft and tasty. They could eat more food and become stronger. And it helped them to clear forests for planting. Fire also helped them in making stone tools. Sitting around the fire made them more social. They developed communication skill and this helped their mental development. So, we will start our chapter part 3 on page number 109, setting down. Here is a settling down. Student, the early man now had his own farm and domestic animals. In previous video, we already learnt about it. They did not move from one place to another for food. Why so? Because they grew their food in their own farm. They also had to take care of the domestic animals. Domestic animals means, student, pet animals. So they built huts near their farm. The huts were made from mud and leaves. Since they needed water for their farm, they built their houses close to the river bank. They could also get food by fishing in the river. So, student, they start communication skill and this help their mental development. So, they early man now had his own farm and domestic animals. Okay, student. Now, next point is invention of the wheel. How they invented of the wheel. Student, before the wheel was invented, before the wheel was invented, the early man used floating logs or bark of wood on water to travel. So student, first of all, again, domestic means, what is mean? It means of home and tame animals. It is domestic. Okay. Now here is a word, this is the topic, setting down. It means, student, to start living in a place where they intend to stay for a long time, usually with their family. It is setting down. Student, log. What it means? Students, log means a thick piece of wood that has fallen or been cut from a tree. Okay? Logs. These are logs. Look at here. Logs. A thick piece of wood cut the tree that has fallen or been cut from the tree. These are logs. Look like this is. It's a log. Okay? Now. And now student, bark. Logs, bark. Bark means pill, crust and the hard outer covering of a tree. Again, I will explain through this. Bark means the hard outer covering of a tree. It is a hard outer covering. Okay, we call it bark. So, the hard outer covering of a tree, we call it bark also. Okay, beta? I hope you understand. Students, before the wheel was invented, the early men used floating logs or bark of wood on water to travel. They tied a few logs together and made a raft. So, student, tied means bind. Tied means bind. So, they bind a few logs together and made a raft. This is raft. Okay. They transported heavy loads on these rafts. Heavy load means this is the heavy load. Heavy load. Okay. But it was difficult to travel on land with heavy loads. It is very difficult. What is the difficulty? It is very difficult to travel on land with heavy loads. They used carts or sleighs and pulled them. This is the pulled. He pulled heavy loads. Okay. It was very difficult to pull them on uneven space. Uneven surface. Uneven surface means it is not equal. We call it the uneven. The early man noticed tree trunks rolling easily. Tree trunks rolling easily. How it is? Because it is round in shape. That's why it's rolling easily like this. Okay? They put their carts on the logs and pulled them like this. They put their carts on the logs and pulled them. It was now easier to move the carts on uneven surfaces. This is how the wheel was invented. Why wheel was invented? When they noticed it is very easier to move the carts on uneven space with help of the logs. Okay, this is how the wheel was invented. The early men also invented the potter's wheel. What is a potter's wheel? Potters use the wheel now for making a pots like this. And they make pot here. They made pots out of clay. They dry the pots in the sunlight and bake them in the fire. This made the pots stronger. They store the grains in these clay pots. So what is the use of pots? They store the grains in the clay pots. Okay. As time went by, the early men discovered metal from the stones because metals are minerals. We found the stones. Okay. Copper. Now go on page number 110 here. Copper and iron were perhaps the first metal to be discovered. They made stronger and sharper tools from metals. Before it, they used stone tools, bronze tools, and wood tools. But when they discovered metal from the stones, copper and iron, they made stronger and sharper tools from metals. As life progressed and the early men continued to live a settled life, they started to spend time with their family and friends because they have time for their own. So they started settled life and they started to spend time with their family and friends. Now students, they use the tools to make musical instruments and they also dance to the music. They also painted animals and hunting scenes on the walls of the caves. Man has continued to make new discoveries and inventions. Human life is so much easier and comfortable. We are still finding newer and better ways that can make our lives even more comfortable. So student, this is a chapter of story of early men, and we know how they learn to grow crops, how they use tools, and after that they progress and the early men continue to live a settled life and they started to spend time with their family and friends. Okay, and now friends, once again, this is potter's wheel. This is the potter's wheel and he made pots on it. Okay, like this. Okay, I hope you all understand the things. Okay, beta?